at political rallies, at Tea Party gatherings. We're doing what Americans have always done. When we've sensed our country's in danger, we've set aside our personal lives and we've risen to the occasion ever since the days of the Boston Tea Party. In times of crisis, that's what Americans have done. We don't wait for our leaders to act. We act ourselves and then tell our leaders to lead, follow, or get out of the way. That's how 9 generations of Americans have defended our freedom. It was on a very different day than this, a cold winter's evening, as a matter of fact, in 1838, when a 29-year-old second-term state legislator from New Salem, Illinois, stepped before a meeting being held in Springfield. And that night, young Abraham Lincoln posed this haunting question. He asked, "At what point shall we expect the approach of danger? By what means shall we fortify against it? Shall some transatlantic military giant step across the ocean and crush us at a blow? Never. Never. All the armies of Europe, Asia, and Africa combined, with all the treasure in the world in their military chest, our own excepted, with a Bonaparte as a commander, could not by force take a drink from the Ohio or make a track upon the Blue Ridge in a trial of 1,000 years. So I ask again, at what point shall we expect the approach of danger? I say if it ever reaches us, it must spring up amongst us. It cannot come from abroad. If destruction be our lot, we must ourselves be its author and its finisher. As a nation of free men, we are destined to live forever or die by suicide. And I've often wondered how ironic it would be if the freedoms that 9 generations of Americans have fought to defend on far-off battlefields might someday be casually thrown away here at home. When Americans learned that a British column had mowed down a local militia at Lexington and was marching on toward Concord, word spread across the countryside. They didn't need faxes, they didn't need cell phones, and one by one, quite spontaneously, individual shopkeepers and farmers took their muskets off the mantles, they kissed their families goodbye, and they set off to win their freedom, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. At that moment in time, they had realized that events had become intolerable and could no longer be ignored. Now, of course, George III, tyrant that he was, never tried to take away their firearms. That is a new phenomenon, and of course, that's what brings us all here today. But fortunately, history is not calling upon us to be citizen soldiers. It is calling upon us to become citizen activists, every one of us. And you're all here today because you've answered that call. 38 days from now, Americans are going to decide the most important question that's confronted our nation in the last century. I believe that it's nothing less than whether America will become just another failed socialist state, or whether this generation of Americans will restore the unique American principles of individual freedom and limited government that produced the most prosperous and successful republic in the history of civilization. What we're seeing across the country is something that the Obama left doesn't understand and cannot possibly comprehend. It's called the American spirit, and it's back. Right here today, it's right here at rallies all across America. It's happened every time our freedom's been threatened, and it's now returned in our own time. Just remember that the debates in the Capitol are simply a reflection of a much larger debate that's going on across our country, at coffee shops and town hall meetings, over backyard fences and family dinner tables. And it is that debate that will determine the fate of our nation for generations to come. Many times a day I'm asked a simple question by folks who've never been involved in politics, who've never attended a public meeting, but who sense their country's in danger and who are rising to meet that danger. And then the question is, what can I do? There's only one answer to that question. It was first given by the great abolition leader Frederick Douglass to a young protege who posed that question to him. Douglass answered with 3 words. He said, agitate, agitate, agitate. That's the only way to meet the danger to our freedom that's sprung up amongst us, and that is to rally our friends and neighbors and fellow citizens. And that means taking an active role every day in the historic public debate that's raging around us. Please, every day, do one thing at least to connect with your fellow citizens on these issues. Stand up at every public meeting you can get to and speak out. Attend town hall meetings. Call into talk shows. Write letters to the editor. Leave comments after the articles that you read online. Email your friends. Link to information. Post on blogs and Facebook and Twitter. Support candidates and causes. Agitate, agitate, and agitate in every forum you can find. Most importantly, we've got to elect candidates that we can trust never to tolerate in the least the violation of our Constitution and our natural rights that our Constitution guards. That means very carefully looking at the candidates on the ballot that are coming up in 38 days and to support those candidates with everything that you can. I want to mention a very important election that's going on in our district right now where there's a proven leader in defense of our constitutional rights who needs our help, Ted Gaines. He's running against a fellow named Roger Nilo for the state Senate seat that was vacated by the death of Dave Cox. Nilo is one of the 6 Republican sellouts who engineered the single biggest tax increase ever imposed by any state in American history. He said it was because of the terrible fiscal condition of the state. Well, guess who voted for the budgets that put the state in its terrible fiscal condition? Roger Nilo. And if he's so eager to tax your earnings, I don't think it's going to take him long to tax your guns, or to take your guns. The Obama left might have supermajorities in both houses. They might have the most left-wing president in the history of our country. They might have the media and the union bosses. But they've lost the American people. Your voices, in every forum that you can find every day have made the difference. And if you'll just keep it up, just keep doing what you're doing today, every day, history guarantees only one outcome. You will have saved our country. Ladies and gentlemen, what's happened to our country's happened on our generation's watch. It is our generation's responsibility to set things right. Our nation's not been struck down by some act of God beyond our power to control. Our nation is being struck down by acts of our own government, and that is fully within our power to control. We've never been more than one election away from making the changes that are necessary to restore our constitutional liberties. The next opportunity comes in 38 days. Are you ready to make the most of every one of those 38 days to restore our Constitution, take back our freedom, and save our country?
Yes.
Well, then let us together write the next chapter of the American Republic. When historians look back on these days 1,000 years from now, let them record that just when it appeared that the principles of American freedom would founder, this generation rediscovered them, rallied to them, revived them, restored them, polished them, and passed them on, shining and inviolate to the countless generations who followed. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for everything that you're doing. Now let's take back our country.
Congressman Tom McClintock. And we've had Tom on the Armstrong and Getty Show many times over the years, certainly going well back into when he was just in the Capitol down the road here. And we'd have him on the show.
When he was lonely in the Capitol.
And I am a cynical man. And we would have him on the show, and I would say, Tom, I just don't think democracy works anymore. I just don't think enough people care. I don't think enough people pay attention. I really don't think so.
Not a democracy.
And he would say, when things get bad enough, people will start paying attention, and you'll